All right. So thanks everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here. And what we're going to be talking about today is 5 ways to know that your BCDR solution is sufficient. In other words, DRAS and the failover revolution. So I do want to make you aware of a couple of quick housekeeping announcements. I'll get to those in just 1 minute, but this is just a quick intro. My name is Carla Fedrigo, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Infrascale. You have all my contact information here as well, so please feel free to reach out to me at any time. And the couple of quick housekeeping announcements that I mentioned. So first of all, a recording of this video. We are recording today, and I am going to post a copy of that on our website, infrascale.com/webinars. So you'll be able to have that replay video. The access will be within about 24 hours. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, there is a question tool in the software, so just go ahead and use that questions tool to type anything in along the way as we go. In the Q&A, we are going to have a giveaway. So all you need to do to be eligible for that is just simply ask lots of relevant and on-topic questions, and one random participant is going to be winning that giveaway. So I'll announce that later at the end of the presentation. And then finally, you can join the conversation on social. You can use the hashtag DRAS, and you can follow us on Twitter at Infrascale. So definitely get involved in the conversation there. One last note, if you want a copy of these slides, you can grab it in the handout section of the software. So go ahead and grab a copy of these slides. You'll also see in there a report that we're going to discuss. So you can grab both of those handouts. Now, before we dive into the meat of today's presentation, I want to launch a quick poll. The reason is I just want to hear a little bit more about you, and I want to be able to cater some of this presentation to what it is that you're looking for. So simply launching this quick poll now. Great. All right, so you should be seeing that popping up on your screen here. And I'm just simply asking, when it comes to business continuity and disaster recovery, which of these is you? Are you not happy with your current business continuity disaster recovery solution? Maybe you're happy with your solution, but you're interested in failover, disaster recovery as a service. Maybe you're comparing different vendors and you're looking for a brand new solution. Or you're happy with your solutions and just learning, just getting the education today, which is great as well. Okay, and 70% of you have voted. It looks pretty widespread, so I'll give everyone another minute there to vote. We're already at 75% now who voted. Wonderful. Okay, thank you everyone for your participation. Again, this really helps me throughout the presentation to be able to give relevant examples, just knowing what it is that you'd like to hear. And then again, use the question tool throughout, and we can continue the discussion that way too. Okay, so first I'm gonna quickly let you know Infrascale's mission and why we're here on this webinar today, what we're going to discuss. Now, Infrascale is a DRAS company. We're using the cloud to eradicate downtime. So really, that's our entire mission. And hopefully you're here on this webinar because that's your mission too. Now, everyone knows the risks and the revenue loss associated with downtime. So every company really needs that option. And so our goal, now obviously we can't eliminate the causes of downtime, but our goal is to eliminate the pain that a business experiences in the event of an outage. And when I refer to DR, I mean, especially DR as a service, I mean the ability to fail over an entire business environment, not just file and folder data. So I just want to be really clear about that as well. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of the trends and some of the current problems in the industry And then, of course, we'll look at some of the solutions, and we're going to look at how you can know if you have a proper solution implemented. Now, I just want to focus here. I'm not going to read through this whole slide, but I want to focus on number 2 here. Only the biggest companies can afford failover systems. It leaves 68% of companies using just backup as a poor man's disaster recovery solution. So I'm going to focus on this a little bit more. We'll come back to this. But I want to first look at, we realize that business continuity and disaster recovery is essential to a business. Uptime is critical. Downtime causes losses in revenue. For each hour of downtime, we've seen costs up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what are some of those barriers to adoption? Now, we just saw on that last slide, 68% of companies were saying that it's too expensive. Now, here is a stat that I got from a DRAS Attitudes and Adoption report. This is the report that I mentioned is in the handout, so you can grab a copy of this for more detail. But essentially, the barriers to adoption are first, just a misperceived idea that it's too expensive, just can't afford it. Second is insufficient IT resources. And third is compatibility and complexity issues. So we're going to address all of this as we go. Okay, so let's look then at the top causes of downtime. Now, this is not going to be a surprise for any of you, but I do want to take a look at these trends before we dive into more detail. So this chart is sort of telling two different stories. On the left, you're seeing how pervasive downtime really is. We see that 91% of data center managers that were surveyed experienced downtime in the last 24 months, in the last 2 years, what you see on the top there. Now, 47% experienced an outage this year. So for those of you on this webinar today, that would be half. That would be about 50% of you joining. We have about 100 people on this webinar today, so 50 of you on this webinar today potentially have experienced an outage. So if you have, I'd love to hear that story. Please share that in the question tool, and we can discuss that and have a little bit more of interaction during the Q&A as well. Okay. Now, on the right, you're seeing the top causes of downtime. Again, not surprisingly, we know that hardware failure and human error account for over 3/4 of all downtime, but then natural disasters account for less than 5%. But still, we want to look at both micro and macro disasters when we're talking about disaster recovery and when we're talking about business continuity. We need to keep both the micro and macro side in mind. So, traditional disaster recovery, the history of DR invariably means trade-offs. So on one end of the spectrum, you have tape, which is very cheap, but it takes days to recover. So of course, along the bottom, we have cost. So offsite tape backup is the cheapest option. Along the side then, recovery time, or RTO. So the recovery time objective, it takes days to recover with tape. And then along came cloud backup, and these are along this continuum. As you see, you get to a point where recovery time is lessening. You're getting faster and faster recovery time. But gosh, the costs go up quickly. We've got cold site, warm site, and hot site. Then you're getting into really expensive solutions. So on the far right of the scale, when you have hot site DR, the data is mirrored to the secondary server in real time. So both systems contain identical information, but look, it's so expensive. It's the most expensive option. And of course, you always have to make that trade-off between speed and cost. But what you really want is an affordable and on-demand failover solution. DRAS Nirvana is what we call it here in the top left. Now, what you can get with disaster recovery as a service, which we'll come back to a little bit later, is that you can quickly reboot and virtualize all your VMs, keep everyone productive while the root cause of the outage is fixed. But of course, can only really deliver on that promise if you find the right vendor. So let's take a look at some different options and ways to really assess your current solution and see what it is that you could be doing better, if anything, of course. So let's just take a look at number one. Avoid reserved infrastructure. So this is definitely something that should be avoided, and really this is why. So we just saw the trade-offs that some solutions can achieve. We were looking at the RTO and cost trade-offs. So we saw that there are definitely ways that you can achieve the recovery time that they just simply don't achieve the cost, right? And this is what you see here on the left is how most DR solutions are architected. So you have a production site, it replicates to the failover site, but because of the bandwidth, the people, the software involved, it can cost up to 3 times as much to set up a proper DR solution. And then on top of the expense to implement, it's complex to test and to use. It's vulnerable to hackers because security isn't built in. So you really want to avoid reserved infrastructure, but you still want on-demand failover. And we can offer that at the price point of most backup solutions, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. So number 2 that brings us to is avoid hardware-heavy solutions. These should also be avoided. You really do want to find a solution that can utilize cloud spillover, and that's going to save you a lot of money when it comes to that solution. So what you see on the left is kind of a common scenario. It's really the old way of doing disaster recovery, where you buy an appliance, you end up filling that up, so you buy another one as your data grows, you fill that up again, buy another appliance, and really just continue this cycle where if you need more space for your growing data, it's just going to be more hardware and another appliance on top of another. But on the right, what you could be doing is just simply using one single piece of hardware, and everything else, as your data grows, for example, can spill over intelligently to the cloud. So it would be the last hardware appliance you'd ever need, just a slim rack mount 1U unit, and you could send it 1 terabyte or you could send it 100 terabytes. So you really want to avoid hardware-heavy solutions like you see on the left. What you want to aim for is something like you see on the right, where you have one piece of hardware and you can utilize cloud spillover technology that can intelligently spill data over from the device to the cloud, all based on policies that you set. So you can determine those policies based on the age and the value of your data. So you can say, this is what's most critical that I want to keep locally. Everything else that's less critical can be spilled over to the cloud. Okay, that brings us to number 3. So you want to have a solution that's designed end-to-end, and hopefully you do. But if not, what that would include is backup for any device, first and foremost. So that would include servers, both physical and virtual, laptops, desktops, mobile devices. You want everything included there. Even things like geolocate and remote wipe for mobile devices are affordable and effective. So you also want support for any OS, so not just Windows, but Linux, Unix, VMware, Hyper-V. All this is all part of a complete solution, right? Designed end-to-end. So you should be able to deploy it in any form. So that could be physical appliances, virtual appliances, or agent-level backups as well. And then you want to be able to store it in any cloud. So if you have your own private cloud, maybe you're using popular third-party clouds like Amazon Web Services or Windows Azure. So you really need that flexibility to have a complete solution designed end-to-end. You'll need to be able to recover anything, of course. You want to be able to recover anything from an entire database server down to just the mailbox level. You want to be able to preview and search so that you can recover individual items as well. And then boot anywhere. So you do want the ability to boot either on the appliance or in the cloud, so you need that flexibility. and then failback for any systems as well. So this is how your solution will be designed end-to-end. And I'm curious, for those of you on the line, how many of you have a solution that's designed this way? Or if not, which pieces are lacking? You can use the question tool to let me know. So I'd love to hear from you. Okay, and moving right along, that brings us to number 4, which is prioritize recovery and test. So is this something that you're already doing? Now, when we think of recovery, let's look at the old way of doing things, the way that we sort of did on cloud spillover, right? So think about what you normally have to go through in the case of an outage. Let's just say it's 2 in the morning on a Saturday, because of course, you know, at the worst time is when an outage would happen, right? So you would actually have to get up out of bed, you'd have to get out to your car, you'd have to drive to the data center, start recovering from backups. So this is a really cumbersome process and laborsome. And imagine you could just, same scenario, right? You get a call, it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, but you could just reach over to the nightstand, grab your iPad, and bring back 200 servers in the right order within 15 minutes. And then you just go back to sleep. So that's the comparison that we're looking at here. You want to be able to have a solution that is reliable, affordable, and fast. You really don't have the time to afford, especially at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, where you have to go about things the old way. Now with testing, again, testing was such a hassle. You'd only do it once a year. But what if you could test every day and ensure that your solution was up and running exactly as you expect it to? Okay, now the last reason we're looking at here, security and encryption. This is really, really important. Now, how many of you would say that you have a foolproof security system? My guess is that I'd get some interesting answers in the question tool here. But on the other hand, are any of you taking raw files? And Troy says no comment. Are any of you taking raw files and simply sending them to the cloud that way? I'd be curious to hear that as well. But what we're looking at here is your ideal security and encryption solution. This is a double-blind encryption system, and what we're looking at here, first, it is encrypted locally, then it's also encrypted in transit, and then finally encrypted at rest in the data center. This is really, this double-blind encryption system is military grade. We definitely take security very seriously. This is the infrascale way of doing it, in case anyone was curious, but really this is the ideal way to be securing your data. So it's best practices compared to any other solutions used. You definitely don't want to take raw files and send them to the cloud. And this grade of security is going to enable compliance with regulations such as HIPAA, PCI, Safe Harbor, Sarbanes-Oxley, and more. So when you think about it, it's similar to like a bank deposit box, where your approach is to encrypt your data locally with a key that only you have and your vendor doesn't, and then when the data gets to the data center, it's encrypted again with a key that the vendor has and you don't know. So by having those two separate keys, it really dramatically lowers the chances of an attack being successful. And when you look at it, even if a hacker did get in, they wouldn't be able to decrypt the data because they don't have both keys. I'm seeing some questions come through, and we'll get to those in just one moment, because we're wrapping up this section here, where this is just a quick recap of those 5 items that we just looked at, which I'm now going to call the 5 rules of DRaaS, DR as a service. So the first one we looked at, avoid reserved infrastructure. Number 2 is avoid hardware-heavy solutions. Number 3 was design it end-to-end. 4, push-button failover. And 5 was the security and encryption that we just looked at. Great. Okay, so you guys have heard quite a bit from me, so I want to launch another poll and hear from you. So let me launch this second poll really quickly, and I'll give everyone a moment to answer that. Okay, and so as you guys answer, I just pulled it up on the screen. Now, when it comes to backup, business continuity and disaster recovery, which of these is you? A, I can fail over to a second site in under 60 minutes. B, I wish I had failover DR, but I just can't afford it. Or C, I don't think I need failover DR. We've got 50% of you who voted so far. And I did see the comment from the last poll. Let's see, who was that? Jonathan said, hey, results of the poll weren't shared. Sorry about that, Jonathan. I'll definitely share the results of this one. I missed that the first time around. 82% of you have voted so far. Okay, it looks like now we've got about 90% of you who voted. So let me go ahead and close this one down and share those results. Okay, so you should see the results on your screen now here. 37% said I can fail over to a second site in under 60 minutes. Of those of you who answered A, can you fail over to a second site in under 15 minutes? And you just use the question tool to let me know on that. 58% said I wish I had failover DR, but I just can't afford it. And 5% said I don't think I need failover DR. I'm also really curious to hear from that 5%. Why is it that you don't need failover DR? What type of business do you have, or what solution do you have in place? I'm just really curious to get more detail from you on that. And Troy says, an hour is good, right? I don't know about that, Troy. How much is that going to cost you to be down for an hour? You'll see in that report, if you grab a copy of the report that I shared in the handouts, there's some really great data on the cost of downtime and the cost per hour. So I see Scott's note. He says, just looking to improve. He says, we have DR and could continue critical business within 48 hours. Wow, Scott, 48 hours. How much is that going to cost your business? I can fail over, not sure I can beat 60 minutes. Okay, so it sounds like I'm seeing a lot of the same comments there, so let me go ahead and get back into the presentation here. You should be seeing my slides again, hopefully. Okay, great. So thanks everyone for participating in the poll. I really appreciate your time with that. Now we're going to wrap up this this presentation with just a quick little bit about Infrascale, and then we're going to get to the Q&A. I've seen a lot of these questions coming through, but I wanted to make sure that I keep on time and be respectful to the time that I promised we'd stick to today. So like I mentioned when we started off, Infrascale is a DRaaS company. We're using the cloud to eradicate downtime. So that's our mission, very simple. We're just looking to, now we can't prevent disasters, but we're looking to mitigate the pain and the disruption that an organization is going to feel and how you're affected. So we really want to equip every company with the ability to quickly and affordably recover from any type of disaster, whether it be large or small, those macro and micro disasters that we saw earlier. So with that, I just want to show you how we do it. So this is a quick example of cloud failover in action. Okay, so we'll take a look at it here. This is the Infrascale dashboard. And in this quick walkthrough, I'm just going to go through the steps that you would take. Like we mentioned earlier, it's that 2 a.m. scenario. It's Saturday night. You're in bed. You just want to reach over and log into the dashboard here, which you can do from any browser. So the first thing I do here, this is where I can manage all of my appliances. You see some of the appliances are standalone, some are replicating to the cloud. And in this case, I'm just going to assume there's one server per office here, and I'm going to navigate to the office that's down. And you're noticing I don't have to mess around with VPNs. This dashboard gives me the power to manage remote environments without any extra hardware. And so I'm going to navigate into the cloud side so that I can browse and recover files. That's what I just clicked here. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is navigate to the Cloud Boot tab here. So this is a very simple wizard that I'm going to get. I just simply select the server that I want to bring up, and so now I'm in the Cloud Boot wizard here. So I'm just going to pick the point from which I want to bring that server back. So I just pick the most recent backup date, and now I'm going to outline my network configuration. I can decide which traffic do I want to accept. So I'll accept traffic from RDP and SSH in this. And then all I need to do is set up a notification email when the VM has been spun up. So just have that notification email sent to Ken, and then I got that notification that Cloud Boot started successfully. Great. So now I just simply flip over to the Active tab here, and then I see that it's ready. The selected VM has already been virtualized, and so great. Now I just want to log into Windows Remote Desktop Client, and I want to connect to this particular server. Let's verify that the server is actually running, right? So as I log in, of course, no surprise, we're going to see it works. I have network connectivity, and then I want to ensure that I have both inbound and outbound connectivity. So the very last step simply is going to be to check that I have outbound connectivity. So I'm going to want to ping Google. So just simply open up Windows PowerShell to ping Google, and that's really it. That's the entire process. So what we just saw in this 2-minute video is, here's what I'll just quickly review what we just saw. Logged into the dashboard, found the office that was impacted by the disaster, found the server that I wanted to bring up first, then I cloud booted the server and logged in to test connectivity. So that's it. The entire process took 2 minutes. And again, you can go through this browser, so even on a mobile device like an iPad or an iPhone. Okay, with that in mind, just quickly getting to some of the problems that we saw in the beginning of the webinar. We're going to talk about pricing, and this map here is a great overview of everyone that Infrascale is protecting. Each of these red dots is a business that we're protecting. So you can see that we have thousands of business globally. We have 15 geographically dispersed data centers, and then each of these red dots, you can see, of course, very heavily concentrated in North America and Europe and Australia, but we have coverage all over the entire world. Okay, great. So the last thing that we're going to cover is pricing, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. So when we talked about pricing, we did a comparison here with a couple of other vendors. So when you do comparisons, you need to make sure that you're doing an apples-to-apples comparison, right? So this particular comparison is the cost of a 10 terabyte appliance and 3 years of cloud. So we did this comparison with Barracuda, Unitrends, Datto, and Infrascale. And what we found was that the Infrascale solution would save up to 70% in comparison to, and again, an apples-to-apples comparison. So I'm happy to share this information with you, all the data that we collected. And then another comparison is on everything that we looked at today, right? Is it affordable? Does it offer cloud spillover? Do you have complete coverage? So is it designed end-to-end like we looked at? Do you have push-button failover? What about encryption security? So all of these points that we've been discussing so far today are taken into consideration in this comparison. And here we looked at Axient, Datto, Barracuda, Unitrends, and Infrascale. So as you can see, all the major vendors out there just don't stack up the way that Infrascale does. And then here this is just a quick snapshot of our dashboard. You saw it in the demo just now. But from our dashboard, you can view activity alerts. You can access all of the reporting and monitoring. You can monitor all of your account usage, manage all of your retention settings. And so we already took a look at that when we did the demo. So last bit here is really just about how we can address, that cost issue that we discussed, and also just have a complete on-demand cloud-backed failover DR as a service solution. I know it's a mouthful, but essentially we guarantee a 15-minute failover at up to 90% less than our incumbents. So it's really important to take a look at different solutions, and again, with an apples-to-apples comparison, know exactly what you're going to be getting in that solution. So with that in mind, the next steps, I want to offer everyone who, first of all, thank everyone for joining today, and everyone on the line here. I want to offer you a risk-free intro to Infrascale with a complimentary terabyte of cloud backup. So one free terabyte. To take advantage of that, all you need to do is just type something into the question tool to let me know, hey, I'd like to take advantage of that risk-free intro. Or you can also email me and let me know that you would like that offer. So you can get in touch with me at carla.federigo@infrascale.com, or again, just use the question tool and let me know that you'd like that free terabyte. And then with that, I'd like to dive into the Q&A. So let's give everyone a moment to reply. Just again, type into the question tool, let me know that you're interested, and then also get your questions in now. I'll give everyone a moment to be for that giveaway. I mentioned in the very beginning of the presentation, we're going to be doing a giveaway in the Q&A. All you need to do is ask lots of relevant and on-topic questions for that. So get your questions in now, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. Okay, we have lots of great questions coming through, and so again, just for those of you who had joined a little bit later, in the very beginning of the presentation, I mentioned definitely ask lots of relevant and on-topic questions, and then we are going to do a random giveaway. So one of those questions we're going to be picked, and the giveaway that we have for you today is a free Chromecast. So hopefully you could make use of that Chromecast. I hear that they are pretty awesome, so hopefully you'll be selected for that. And for the questions, I have one of our sales engineers here. Daniel, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hello everybody. How are we doing today?
Great. So Daniel's, again, our sales engineer. You can try to stump him. I definitely have, but I haven't been successful with that. So give it your best go, and I'm going to turn it over to Daniel, and he's going to read through the questions and then give the answers to them.
Thank you very much, Carla. So I'm going to go through here. There are a lot of questions, a lot of comments, so if I'm pausing for a moment, I do apologize. Just need to make sure I get all your questions answered in a timely manner. So first question I have here from Jonathan C. is, does Infrascale's DRAS include a HAS model for the on-site? And we do, in fact, offer a HAS model for our appliances as well, and that can be discussed with one of our account managers when we contact you. Another question from Jonathan C. here is, what kind of monitoring monitoring integrations do you have available? So with our monitoring integrations are done via SNMP traps, and we also have the ability to have email-based monitoring done. So we've set it up to shoot out trigger-based emails to whatever RMM you may be using. Jonathan C. asking a lot of good questions here. It says, is this continuous data protection or cyclic snapshots? So we are a schedule-based backup, so you can set the schedules to run once a week, once a day, or multiple times per day, down to every 15 minutes if you'd like. Troy T. asks, how about private cloud? So we do offer the ability to back up to your data centers. We can back up to your data centers as well as the infrascale public cloud should you so choose. James B. asks, this may be answered later, but how easy is it to fail back to your main site once the problems have been fixed? You're talking about maybe a 2-minute wizard just to push back all the change data to the local appliance for recovery. Very simple, very easy to use. Jonathan C.S., is pricing purely storage-based, or do you have time-based pricing as well? It is purely storage-based, so it's on a per terabyte basis. You don't have to worry about licensing or how many machines you may be using. It's all about how much storage space you're going to need. James B. asks, is this meant to be a replacement for a backup system or solely for BCDR? And he says, for example, a user deletes a file and needs to restore a mailbox. Can this be used for the simple restores? And it absolutely can be. It is a full replacement or a full complete backup solution as well as DR. So you can back up full images of machines. You can back up host level backups for VMware and Hyper-V, and you can do file level restores for all of those as well. Jane R. asks, what systems do you guys back up? A wide range of systems, hypervisors, again, VMware, Hyper-V at the host level, VMware at the vCenter level, Windows, Linux, Mac, OS X, HPUX, Novell, NetWare, FreeBSD, the list goes on. So if you have a specific one that you haven't seen, please let us know, and we'll be happy to answer that for you. Mike H. asks, if we do you work directly with end users or are you channel-based only? We are in fact channel-based only, so we work directly with partners. We don't sell to end users, so that is not an issue. We go directly to partners.
And just to add to that, as I know many of you on the line are end users, and your business would definitely need a solution like this. I just want to be really clear on, we work with you directly right up until the point of sale, but we are going to channel that through one of our partners because we are channel focused. So we do really find a solution that fits for everyone, and so we are able to work with you up until that point.
And then Scott B. asked, how frequent do we update our DR data to your server, daily or hourly? So all backups, once the backup is completed, it's automatically replicated into the cloud and can be used for DR both locally and in the cloud or at the target. Now, that can be turned off if you decide that you don't want to replicate that particular server, but it is as frequent as your backups run, basically. Jane R asks, what do you guys back up? Oops, sorry, lost the question. Do you guys back up SQL servers? Yes, we do back up SQL servers, as well as Exchange, mailbox level, and database level recovery. Mike asks, how do you guys do replication, deduplication? So our replication, deduplication are built in to the appliance. We use a proprietary system called DDFS-AR. And what that means is everything is globally deduplicated locally on the appliance, whether it's VMware or Hyper-V physical machine, all deduplicated at a block level. Now, that's great for local storage, but where it really shines is when we're replicating into the cloud. Instead of sending the entire job over the WAN, deduplicating it at the target, we're going to go ahead and send just a block map and say, how many blocks do you actually need, which blocks do you actually need, and we're only going to send those over the WAN. So it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of bandwidth, and a lot of storage in the cloud. Aaron asks, for VMs, can you only get the most recent job, or do you have to go back, or can you go back to the different checkpoints? So you can restore individual files and folders, as well as do full restores and local and cloud boot as far back as your retention policies allow. So our retention policies are per machine and can be done at different lengths of time for the local side as well as the cloud side. So if you've got 3 months worth of backups on your local appliance, each one of those backups will be available for restoring as well as booting.
Okay, lots of great questions, guys. Let me go ahead, and since we've got just a few minutes left, and I'm just sort of getting back to taking this question list back from Daniel here, because I want to ensure that we go ahead and give away that Chromecast. So I'm pulling the list back up here. If you can give with me for just one moment, and then I'll be right back on the line and I'll announce the winner of that. All right, great. So it looks like Jonathan C., you had asked the most relevant question, so you are the winner of that free Chromecast. Jonathan, I will reach out to you regarding that by the end of the week, so you'll hear from me on that. And with that, I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today, and want to let you know that if you'd like to take advantage of that free Terabyte for joining us here today, of course that's just for you guys who are on the line, you can email me at carla.federico@infoscale.com, or if you've put a note into the question tool there, then I'll make sure to get you set up with that. So thank you everyone for joining us. Lots of great questions. Really appreciate your time and hope to work with you in the future. Thanks.